Tim was originally an ordinary boy, but when he turned 21, his father told him an astonishing secret: the men in their family could travel through time. Obviously, Tim didn't believe what his father said, but seeing his father looking deadly serious, Tim got curious. He decided to give his father's method a try. First, he needed to find an enclosed space. Then, he had to clench his fists tightly and picture the moment in the past that he wanted to go back to. When Tim opened his eyes again, everything seemed to be the same as before. Yet, he soon noticed a change. The clothes he wore were the ones he had on yesterday. He felt excited yet nervous, because he realized that what his father said was true. He really went back to yesterday's New Year's Eve party. After traveling back to the real world again, Tim finally believed his father. He wondered whether this superpower might bring some bad things to him. His father answered earnestly that it would be okay, as long as he didn't do anything bad. Tim wanted to use this superpower to make money, but his father disapproved. His father told him that one shouldn't put money first in life, or they'd end up in a sorry state. After thinking it over, Tim reckoned that his top priority now was to use this superpower to find a girlfriend. His father was surprised by this thought. Even with the superpower of time travel, Tim was still an ordinary boy at heart. He listened to his father and led a steady, ordinary life. When Tim grew up, he decided to work in London alone. His parents were reluctant to let him go, but they didn't want him to stay in the countryside forever either. Full of confidence, Tim arrived in a big city and stayed at the home of his father's old friend for the time being. His job was to write plays. The writer was talented, but had a bad temper, which made Tim a bit uncomfortable. Actually, the writer was a good person. Who would have thought that Tim was so unlucky to bother him while he was working on his plays? Thus, Tim settled down in London for a while. He had to put up with the writer's bad temper and get used to the new living environment. He managed to land a job. The single guy who had been alone for years wanted to find a girlfriend, but his industry was predominantly male. To make matters worse, Tim's boss was impolite and treated his subordinates poorly. Still, Rolly always greeted him with a smile. Time flew by. The big city was even more impersonal than the countryside, and Tim began to feel homesick. He was busy with work all day long, not even having time to make breakfast. Tim finally understood that it was impossible to live a happy life without putting in any effort. Even if he had the ability to travel through time, he still had to work hard to make a living, and he still couldn't find a girlfriend. Sorry, for some reasons, the film introduction has to stop here. If you want to know what happens next, you can search for the film's name.